Morning, police officers. Is it Alec?
It is, yes.
Can we come in for a second?
Okay, yes. Sure.
Do you want to just go through?
Yeah.
There's a few of us.
What's wrong?
Just go in the living room and we'll explain.
Yeah.
Do you want to just take a seat for a second?
Of course.
Hello, Alec.
Hello there.
I work for the Major Crime Unit, which is based at Hertfordshire Police.
Yes.
I've come to arrest you, okay? I'll explain
If you just
everything that's
listen
going to
up.
happen, all right? You are being arrested right now on suspicion of, there's 3 incidences. The first is on the 7th of April 2002 that you indecently assaulted and kidnapped in Harpenden. Then on the 19th, listen carefully and we'll explain everything. The 19th of June 2002 that you indecently assaulted and kidnapped in Harpenden, and that on the 17th of March 2004 you kidnapped in Harpenden again, Georgia. Alright? You're under arrest for those. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned something which you later rely on in court, and anything you do say may be given in evidence, okay?
Hello there, I'm part of an investigation team in Hertfordshire who are re-investigating an offence which happened 20 years ago.
And I think she gets dragged sort of over there,
Yeah.
into the woods that side.
Yeah.
The statistics for rape are not the greatest, but because the DNA development has improved so much, the chances of us getting convictions are so much better than they ever were.
You've buried it for so long. You've continued on with your life. But yeah, something like that just doesn't really go away.
Using our modern day techniques, we can now reassess these cases. Our success rates increase enormously when obtaining DNA profiles from samples that historically hadn't succeeded.
I'm going to be arresting you, okay, on suspicion of rape. So you don't have to say anything. If you let me explain, I'll explain to you.
Obviously, we've recovered DNA matter. Right. Understand DNA?
No comment.
It's a message to anybody who knows what they've done, that we will get them and we will catch them.
We don't just stop because we can't find a lead. We will carry on. Every contact leaves a trace.
So now that you've been cautioned, our intention is to take you to a police station so that you can be interviewed.
Yeah.
If you want to pop some clothes on, and
I'll
these
take
guys
them,
will
I'll
get
take
you
them
out of
up.
here. Thank
Yeah,
Thank you. I just don't. I'm so
You're a
shocked.
bit shocked,
Oh,
yeah.
no,
I
I'm
appreciate
surprised,
that.
Yeah, obviously.
I appreciate
yeah.
that.
We can explain it all to you, Alex.
Yeah,
Don't
Come
worry.
on, let's get you dressed
Okay.
upstairs.
Operation Reactivate is the investigation into 3 offences which happened between 2002 and 2004, involving 3 teenage girls who were dragged off the street and 2 of them sexually assaulted. We have full DNA profiles for the 2 offences in 2002, but no DNA profile for the 2004 offence.
Leave your phone.
Yeah, I need to go to the toilet. Is that all right?
Let's get you dressed first. Are you absolutely desperate, are you?
Well, I need to go properly.
Okay, we'll have to stay with you,
Yeah, that's okay.
unfortunately.
Yes, I understand.
The breakthrough moment for the investigation team came when we received some intelligence to say that Alec Housden was potentially the offender in our case.
Just make sure he's got nothing on him.
Do you want to come round this way? That's right, I'm just going to go round your waistband, okay?
So,
We know that he's not on the DNA database, but when we looked at him and where he lived, proximity to the scene, what he looked like, it was quite clear that that was certainly someone that we needed to go and speak to.
we'll get his DNA turned around today. So, because we've got a full profile on both girls. So we'll get that turned around probably by about 10 o'clock tonight, and then we'll know 100%.
Wow.
Fantastic.
So yeah.
I've just found an iPad.
Just leave it to one side.
Yep.
Alec, I'm not going to place handcuffs on you, but when we walk out, I'm going to take hold of your arm, okay?
That's fine.
We'll just to the car here.
I'm not going to run or
No,
anything.
that's fine. All right.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Thank you. Take hold of your arm. All right.
Yeah, sure.
Keep going.
So we're looking for anything 2002.
So devices, 2002 to 2004, paperwork, to do mainly with his employment or vehicles.
He's clearly got kids and grandkids, and is just recently married by the looks of things. So, yeah, on the face of it, a family man. On the face of it, anyway.
There's family pictures, cards, like lots of family stuff everywhere.
I think people, a lot of the time, live double lives, don't they? Clearly it was a long time ago, so potentially that's not something he does anymore, but that's in a way irrelevant because he's done it. Or we think he's done it. Whoever's done it has done it.
I got picked up this morning on suspicion of something. But anyway, the main thing, darling, everything's okay. I just wanted to give you my work's number because obviously I'm not going to be able to go down. So can you just tell them that I'm ill? No, it's 7 o'clock this morning that I've come to help with their inquiries. I can't say, darling, because the sergeant said I could ring, but not to say what it was about. So I have to, abide by those rules. There's nothing to worry about. Well, the sergeant said that they'll make sure that they won't leave me here. They'll make sure I get home all right.
He's cool as a cucumber, and, that could be an indication of both things. Either he's good at it, or he's not done it.
We now need to really turn this round as soon as we can. But we are in a fortunate position that we can have fast-track forensic work carried out, and that involves taking the suspect's DNA to a lab.
It's a DNA sample taken from suspect to be tested. Fast time.
They're expecting it, they will profile it, and then they will compare it to the crime scene stains from 2002, and that will be done within the next 24 hours.
You hope that you've got the right person, but until you actually get that written document, if you like, that says, yes, 1,000,000,000 to 1, this is the right person, it's always a bit of an anxious wait.
Please, could you state your name?
Alec Richard Houston.
Right, Alec. Now, these offences obviously date back quite some time, between April 2002 and March 2004. So the first one happened on the 7th of April 2002 at approximately 5:30 in the evening. So she says that she approached the bridge and I've seen a silver car which I believe to be a Vauxhall Astra. Okay. Have you ever owned a silver Astra?
No comment.
And this male grabbed me from behind with his right hand. He put his hand over my mouth. He just said, "Don't scream and I won't hurt you." I said, "Are you going to rape me? Are you going to hurt me?" He said, "No, I'm not going to rape you. I just want to touch you and you to touch me." He then started kissing me on my mouth. I kept my mouth closed, kept trying to put his tongue in my mouth. He has pulled the top up to reveal my bra, which too has been being pushed above my breast. He started kissing my right breast and began to fondle my left breast. He took his willy out, which was erect. I said, I'm not going to suck that. He said, no, you don't have to. He has put my left hand around his willy and I have begun to masturbate him. Would that be something that you would do?
No comment.
Okay. Do you have any involvement in this?
No, I don't.
Would you be able to provide me with an account of your whereabouts on this date?
No comment.
And this was what happened on Wednesday the 19th of June 2002. And you remember where you were on that date?
And no comment.
So she's been placed in the car and she's been driven up Higgott's Hill, back near the sewage works. Coincidental with the first offence. He then got out of the car and came round the car and got me out, and that's when I started hysterically crying all the way down. But I started even more hysterically crying and I couldn't breathe, like properly. He had his hand around my mouth and he was like behind me.
Would it be possible to stop for a second? I feel a bit sick. I think it's just what the things you're saying is not very nice.
No.
Could I stop for a second? Just
5-minute break or
please.
something.
Okay.
Is that possible?
We'll just pop you outside into an adjacent room.
I'll just pause. I'll pause the interview. 15.
It's very graphic and it's upsetting.
Okay.
All sexual offences are horrific, but the 2002 offences were particularly because of the age and because of the nature and the force used. 2 years later, in 2004, another young girl walking home from school is dragged by a man off the street into a wooded area. The amount of similarities were such and the location was so close to the 2002 attacks, we thought it was the same man for both offences. The difference in 2004 was the fact that a lady walking her dog saw this happening, heard the girl screaming, that she intervened and the man ran off.
Georgia, tell me about what's actually happened.
Well, I was coming back from the netball match. I was three. And then there was this man standing by his car with his boot open. And then he came up to me and pulled back his hands were like that, and then he pulled back like that, and I said, no. Then he goes, don't scream, I've got a knife. I won't hurt you on this, I'm happy. And then I start screaming. And then he grabs me with his free hand. And I keep on going, please don't hurt me. And screaming, and he's telling me to shut up and everything like that.
On the day of the attack, the reason why I was walking home was because we just played a netball match. This one's me getting in the way. Terrible shot from whoever this was. Netball was my favourite sport. I managed to get into the A team, and that was a very big achievement. Gosh, so young. After the attack, I just wanted to get back to normal as soon as possible. You know, the first few weeks was really hard. There was one time where, for whatever reason, my friends didn't wait for me, so I had to walk that bit on my own. And that was the only time I really allowed myself to break down. And then I think it was almost like well, you can't keep doing this. Just get on with it, and that's, you know, I guess where I'm at now with being quite emotional about it, that I'm maybe looking back and seeing the impacts it has had and not really noticing at the time or thinking about it at the time that it had that effect. But yeah, something like that just doesn't really go away.
See, that is a big old gap, isn't it?
It is. But I didn't particularly notice it when he's speaking.
No, you're right.
When he speaks, you don't notice it.
No.
And he was speaking to them all
His
the time.
top lip covers
Yeah.
some of it anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There are some dissimilarities from him today to the girl's description back in 2002, which were, I mean, he has got quite a distinctive gap between his front teeth, which, looking at old photographs of him, he's always had. And that's not mentioned by any of the girls. Although one of them does mention him having odd teeth, but not to the point where they've mentioned a gap in his teeth.
She says his eyes were really weird. That's the only part that seemed like I can remember. But yeah, nothing about his teeth.
We are at the moment hanging on to that DNA. If it's not his DNA, then we continue with our investigation and we find out whose DNA it is.
What does it feel like doing this walk now?
It's, I know around the corner what was there, you know. Yeah, so it kind of makes you take a bit of a breath, really, I guess. I don't really like town at night now. It's not really the same for me. No. This where these big black gates are, right across the road, that are closed. This is what used to be the Coliseum nightclub. It's actually barred up now. I'm not sure if it's anything anymore. On the day of the incident, it was actually my birthday. It was my 26th birthday. I was out with a group of really, really close girlfriends. We were having a great time, just having fun. And I came out of the nightclub, turned left, and walked down this road. I never came back here after, no. I was walking up here past where the trees are, and then there was one car there with its window open, and the man inside saying, "Where are we going? Where am I going?" So I got in the taxi.
And a walk from town to where you live is about a 5-minute walk from town?
Yeah.
Just straight down?
Yeah, yeah. I really regret being lazy that night. That's the way I look at it. If I wasn't being so lazy that night and had have just walked 5 minutes instead of getting a taxi. And it wasn't until we were supposed to go straight, and we didn't go straight, he did a left, that I realised, hold on a minute, something's not right. And after, I don't know, a few minutes, I kind of started to feel a little bit uneasy, and he was saying things like, you haven't got a fucking clue where you are, have you, you stupid bitch? And you haven't got a fucking clue, have you? You just haven't got a fucking clue. And at that point, I'm kind of looking, thinking, I haven't got a clue about what? You never ever think something like this is gonna happen to you. His voice changed. The only way I can describe it is kind of like a spiteful, nasty voice. His whole face changed. His whole face changed. He looked completely evil. And then all of a sudden, we turned left into what appeared to be garages, which was quite dark. What shocked me the most was how quickly he got from the driver's seat, and then how swift my bottom half of clothing came down. And he had my hands pinned. He was very, very efficient. And one of the weirdest things was he was kissing me on the lips like a boyfriend would or something, or trying to. And I remember his teeth hitting, because my teeth, they stick out a little bit. It was a very aggressive thing as well, because it actually hurt my mouth. I suppose when you're in that situation as well, you've got to focus on the lesser of the devilish things, I guess. you just go into survival mode. And I thought, best thing to do here is just to let him do whatever he wants to do to survive to get back to my son. This is where I got out of the taxi, fell out of the car really, and then I sat on the curb because my legs just wouldn't carry me. There was just no way of finding this guy, because what we've got to remember, in 1993 there weren't CCTV cameras, we didn't have mobile phones, DNA was very much in its infancy, so there was just no way of them progressing with the case.
So this is the original case file. What we did is we located as much of the paperwork that we could. It's not that, I mean, you'll see, it's not that we have a huge amount of paperwork, but what we do have, we have the original e-fit of the suspect that Karen produced at the time with the help of like a police artist. Then there's a description of the suspect, which says Asian male, slim build, 19 to 21 years, 5'8" to 5'10", greasy, oily black hair, long, thin nose. You know, she had that side profile of him in the car for such a long time, and she was saying he had what she would describe as a Roman nose, his front teeth were very prominent. Those features are things that don't change. So it was really nice to have that as well. My favourite part of being a police officer is definitely the cold cases I've worked on, re-engaging with victims of crimes where people have perhaps thought that nothing was ever going to happen for them. But with the absence of DNA evidence, your investigation is very unlikely to progress the case any further.
Eurofins Forensic Services provides the forensic support for multiple police forces. My areas of expertise include the identification of body fluids, the interpretation of DNA profiling results.
Hi, Tash.
Hi.
Right, so what we're looking at today, this is Operation Weave. So this is alleged rape of a lady called Karen. In 1993, she jumped into what she believed to be a taxi.
Okay.
The case was examined previously at the Forensic Science Service in 1993. They found semen on her knickers and also on her intimate swabs. The swabs have been retained. So we're going to re-examine them, try and find more semen, try and obtain a DNA profile, and hopefully we can load something to the DNA database.
Okay.
So semen was detected in '93, but the DNA profile as we know it now didn't exist. So the idea of taking swabs, I guess in the 80s and 90s, was to corroborate the victim's account where the semen was present.
Advances in forensics now allow us to revisit cases that were previously examined 10, 20, 30 years ago, whereby only small amounts of material, cellular material or semen was recovered, insufficient to obtain a profile at the time.
So what I'm doing now is adding the extraction buffer, which will draw out any potential sperm heads in the sample.
Using our modern day techniques, we can now reassess these cases, re-examine any material that remains, and hopefully recover any cells or sperm heads that were missed originally.
So we stain the sperm heads a different colour to the background so we can see them more clearly.
How are we looking, Tash?
I can confirm that are sperm heads present.
That's great news, that is.
I'm on about 13 or 14 at the minute.
Should we get this sample prepped and sent for DNA profiling?
Yep, let's do it.
I've previously examined other swabs in cold cases, some of which had more semen on than in this instance, and they'd unfortunately not given DNA profiles.
So we're going to keep our fingers crossed that there's a match.
Have you read it? I've read it enough. Let me check if I understand it though.
Amazing.
Yes. They hit him.
You're kidding me.
No.
What does it say?
It's really short. It just says a complete DNA profile obtained from this sample. This profile matches Alec Howson's reference DNA profile.
Estimated this finding would be at least 1 billion times more likely that it originated from him than any unrelated.
Insane. Have you got the email?
Yes.
Yes!
1 in a billion.
What a little shit. That's amazing.
Brilliant news, isn't it?
That's insane, yeah.
That's going to be an interesting interview. See you in a minute.
Bye, 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 bye. 20 years that little fucker went.
Yeah.
20 fucking years.
God, imagine being one of those victims finding that out.
Well, they were buzzing enough when they heard we'd arrested someone.
We all wanted to catch him because he's a dangerous individual who lived a life of Riley for the last 20 years getting away with these horrendous attacks, and he actually thought he'd got away with it.
Alec, this is our second interview with you today. Are you feeling fit and well to be interviewed?
I've had a tough old day and had a few sort of heart palpitations earlier and chest pains, but
Yeah.
I'm all right at the moment.
Okay. Now, obviously, we do need to put the new evidence to you, given to your solicitor prior to this interview, which I'm sure you have discussed. I mean, we know that this is your DNA. It is 1 in a billion.
No comment.
Obviously, we haven't got a DNA hit from the third offence. However, it's so similar, isn't it?
No comment.
It's so similar to what's happened from description, from location, from the words that were used. Do you not want to explain what's happened?
No comment.
Do you feel upset about what's happened?
No comment.
Do you care about
No
what's
comment.
happened? Do you care about the impact that this has had on the victims?
No comment.
We've got 3 young girls and this has absolutely had an impact on their lives.
No comment.
Is there anything at all that you want to say about these offences?
No comment.
Okay. In which case, we will end the interview.
Whoa! Amazing! My goodness.
How long is this shift so far?
Yeah.
About 21 hours in.
He's been put back in his cell and we have put together the paperwork for CPS for charging advice this morning. It's now the early hours of the morning. So with a view to getting him charged with all of the offences for which he's in custody.
What do you think your chances are?
I think they're good in relation to obviously the first 2 offences, and with the comparisons on the paperwork in relation to the third offence, I think we stand a good chance of getting all of them, to be honest. So we'll give it a go. Hello. Yeah, right, sorry. We can't get through. No. You're always sat there with your computer on and waiting by your phone. You don't want to hurry people, but you're also under time pressures yourself. So it's just holding your nerve, I suppose, and just letting them do their work. They should ring you back within an hour. But then I've been on the phone for an hour and a half already. So it's bizarre. I haven't waited this long for ages. I mean, we'll go right to the wire with this, I would imagine. And just hope that we get, if he walks out of here, I'll be absolutely spewing. Yeah, it's always a bit of an anxious wait, but we got there in the end.
Alec Housden was charged with 5 offences. He was charged with 2 offences of indecent assault from 2002, 2 offences of kidnapping from 2002, and the offence of kidnapping in 2004. He'd been caught now, and he'd been charged with everything that we had suspected him of. And so it was just the best feeling ever, and especially knowing that I then need to tell the victims of all those offences that this has happened.
When the incident first occurred, my agoraphobia was absolutely chronic. I mean, not even being able to get out of your own front door. It was complete paranoia as well, I think, a lot of the time. I still have days where I'm battling mentally with everything, and you just need to lay there, be quiet, be by yourself, because for some people, just to put their feet out of bed and go and brush their teeth in the morning is an amazing success. They don't realise how much strength that's taken.
See what's in there. I actually have no idea.
At the time of the incident, I had a long-term boyfriend. I'd been with him maybe 5 years. 2 weeks after the incident, I found out that I was pregnant, and I was completely unaware whether it was the man who kidnapped and raped me or my boyfriend. It was a battle every single minute of every single day, I would say, for the 9 months, not to break. I didn't know whether the child was going to come out mixed race, Asian or not. So I've never been so pleased to see a pair of blue eyes and blonde hair in my life. And you were healthy and you had bright eyes and you were perfect, so that's good.
It was me as a baby at the christening.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. That one.
That's Erin's christening. You put on a smile for the camera, don't you?
So where are you there, Karen?
In the red.
Yeah, what do you see?
Somebody who's very sad underneath. Somebody that's very good at putting a mask on. Around that period was probably the worst time to be taking photos of me, so.
Historically, maybe 20, 30 years ago, if we're only finding a couple of sperm heads, then your expectation of obtaining a profile from such small amounts of biological material, it would have been, on the whole, quite low. Thankfully, with modern-day extraction, the recovery of biological materials is far greater. And in this case, a full DNA profile was obtained, which was loaded onto the National DNA Database. A single match was obtained against Zahid Majid.
His name was on the DNA database because he was arrested for another offence. I do wonder at what point somebody who knows of committed crimes thinks, I wonder if that knock will ever come on my door. Maybe he's been waiting for it.
We've been asked to come out to, well, basically, I'll let this officer explain what we're here for.
Right, okay.
And then we'll get it sorted out as quickly as we can.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay, right, so, Cody, at the moment, I'm going to be arresting you, okay, on suspicion of rape. So you have to say it again. If you let me explain, I'll explain it to you.
Read that.
So, yeah, this occurred on Sunday the 14th of November in 1993, in a garage on Hitchin Road, Luton.
There certainly didn't seem any anger. I'm sure if I was being arrested for something I hadn't done, I'd like to think I'd be showing a little bit more emotion.
What I'll do, I'm going to phone my missus. You can do, but you don't discuss what you've been arrested for. Yeah, sure.
Displaying a higher level of protest of innocence, where there was none of that, which I found quite remarkable, really. Rape is one of the most difficult charges to bring, because even with the presence of forensic evidence, we still have to navigate defences such as consent. It's not just looking at the actual incident itself, it's about gathering as much information that surrounds the offence to prove or to disprove what is being said by either the suspect or the victim. What they hold brilliantly is still the original application that he filled in when he applied to become a taxi driver. And the knowledge check actually says that he was never a taxi driver prior to this application to become a taxi driver in 2000. At the time of the offence, it transpired that he actually worked for Vauxhall Motors, I think almost on a production line. Now we know that he wasn't a taxi driver. For me, that says you knew exactly what you were doing. You acted like a predator, where you could find and isolate a victim, lure them into your car, and then take them away and rape them. So he formed the intent to commit that rape before he sat there. He didn't just sit there to give somebody a lift home. That wasn't his intent.
So the reason you've been arrested today is because you've been arrested on suspicion of a rape that happened in 1993 on a female called Karen. Okay?
Okay.
Let's just try and go back all the way to 1993. Who would you have worked for then?
Weekend cars.
What, back in 1993? So what about your taxi licence then? Would you have had that back then?
Oh yeah, I mean, you couldn't drive a taxi without a licence.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your relationship with your wife like back then?
Very good. Yeah.
Have you ever been unfaithful to your wife?
No.
You haven't?
Never.
The victim of this rape. What she's saying is the driver has got a bit nasty, jumps over the car and forces himself on top of her and holds her up against the chair with force.
Right.
And she says the next thing she knows, she feels something hard against her legs and realises it's his erect penis.
Right.
She says she was struggling. She was trying to stop you putting the penis inside her. But you use your right hand to push your penis into her vagina, and she describes you fondling her breasts.
Right. So I've got to be an octopus then. So you're telling me that I'm holding both her hands? Well, that's what you're telling me, right? Yeah.
At one point.
Oh, so at one point, so I'm holding both her arms.
Yeah.
And then you're saying that on the other hand.
On a separate occasion during that incident.
Right. Okay.
This is her account.
That's her account. Okay.
And he ejaculates inside her.
Right.
And we believe that person is you.
It's not me.
She's done an evil fit of the person that she thinks has committed the offence, and this is the original document.
Okay.
So I just want to show you that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Doesn't look anything like me.
In 1993.
Well, it still would never. I would never look like that. Well, my hair will be totally long.
Yeah.
Or totally short. It would never be like that.
Well, it has to get to a certain length to get long, doesn't it?
No, you don't understand. My hair was either long or short.
But how did it get long from being short?
What do you mean? How do you get?
So if your hair's short now,
Yes.
and if you decided
Not to cut it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's going to grow.
Exactly.
And one of those growing stages would be this length, yes?
Maybe.
Okay. So you're denying rape.
100%.
You're denying picking up anyone in a taxi that hasn't been booked.
That's correct.
And you're denying having sex with anyone in 1990.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. We've obviously got a database.
Yeah.
And when people are arrested, their DNA is put on the database and who've been arrested before.
Right.
Yep, so we've got your DNA. And so the DNA that we've picked up on her clothing is hit against your DNA on the database. Okay?
Okay.
Can you explain that?
Mm.
You can.
I can.
Can you explain how any of your DNA could be found on her knickers?
No.
Is there any explanation as to why your sperm would have been found in her high vaginal spots?
No.
And your semen has been found
Not
up
my
here?
semen.
It is your semen, sir.
It's not. It is not my semen.
It is.
I'm telling you, it's not.
We've got-
100% is not my semen.
Well, unfortunately, we can't really argue with DNA, can we? Because our DNA is all very unique to ourselves.
Right. I don't know how DNA works.
This DNA is your DNA, and it's been found inside her vagina. And there's only one explanation, and that you've had sex with her.
It's not. Look at me. 100%.
Can you give us a reasonable explanation as to why that's not inside her vagina then?
All right. I may have had consensual sex out of marriage. May. But I can't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to try and remember?
Should we have a chat?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, no problem.
If there's deniability of knowing the victim, then of course having the DNA match shows that that is inconsistent with the account that is being provided. Majid initially said he didn't know Karen. He said he'd never had sexual intercourse out of marriage, but it was the DNA evidence that was put to him in an interview that actually made him accept that this wasn't going away.
A man has pleaded guilty to kidnapping and indecently assaulting 2 teenage girls in Harpenden 20 years ago. 59-year-old Alec Housden originally denied the attacks, but changed his plea at St Albans Crown Court today.
Mr Housden has entered guilty pleas in relation to 4 offences which cover the first 2 victims, so the 7th of April 2002 and the 19th of June 2002. He's entered a not guilty plea to the 2004 offence, so Georgia's offence. There's mixed emotions really, because you're really pleased, or I'm really pleased, for the victims that he has pleaded guilty for. But we've still got another victim who is waiting for their day in court. So we've still got a lot of work to do. It's hard to know what some of these things are. Oh, so that's the original incident report, the 2004 one.
In my opinion, Alec Housden is responsible for all 3 attacks. Just everything about George's offence is too similar for it to be anybody else. But obviously we have to prove that.
That's Harpenden CCTV.
Oh, okay. Well, we might need that.
The other end.
The focus of the investigation now, following the guilty pleas, is doing everything we can to link him to Georgia and her case from 2004.
Because I know she says about a knife, doesn't she, as
Yeah,
well?
she draws one, look. That's the exhibit that she's drawn in the interview.
Forensically, we've submitted every single thing that we have got in relation to Georgia's attack. She was wearing a T-shirt and her school blazer at the time she was grabbed and she was dragged. And I would have suspected for a prolonged period of dragging, you would find some DNA on that blazer somewhere.
So I'm screening this blazer for semen. Saliva was previously found on the shoulder and sent to DNA. However, there was no profile obtained from that saliva. We're just gonna wet the item, pat it down with some blotting paper, and then spray it with AP, which is acid phosphate, which if it comes into contact with semen, turn purple. It does say he grabbed her shoulder. She screamed out and someone came and interrupted. But sometimes semen might be transferred on hands. So fingers crossed we will find something.
We know that the offender on Georgia's offence was with a silver vehicle. We also know Alec Housden was in possession of the silver vehicle at the time of the very first offence. So now we can go back through ANPR cameras, CCTV, and just see whether we can actually link it all together.
If we manage to find a silver car that we could attribute to our offender, that puts him in the location on the date and at the time of the offence. That just adds to our case really when it comes to trial.
It would be the best result for everybody to get that small nugget to definitively link Alec Housden. But unless we get that DNA from George's attack, it's not that straightforward.
So we're negative. There's no indication that semen is present. Nothing has reacted to the acid phosphate.
We're also looking at his laptops, telephones, anything like that, looking for search history to see if he'd shown any interest in the offence or if he had any interest in anything else that might be linked to our offence.
He literally specifically searches for Romeo and Juliet topless. This actress. She was 15 when filming started, but she was 16 when the scene was shot. Another actress.
But she is 14. Another actress.
She looks very young as well, but she's still quite young. Oh, nice. Busty teens topless. Then busty teen fucked. Schoolgirl babe screwed by her stepdad. Stepdaughter with huge tits. There's some horrible searches on here. Like to actively search for a category like that. It definitely shows that he has a type, and we know from our victims that they looked broadly, well, very similar in terms of age and just in general appearance. They just look very young. Stormy Daniels dresses like a schoolgirl, a little schoolgirl. He's disgusting. I think at least 2 of his ex-partners have told us that he had a thing for schoolgirls, and that was one of his sexual sort of kinks or preferences or whatever. So, yeah.
Georgia, what we'd like to do today is ask you to walk the exact route that you took that evening, and then we're going to walk away from where that incident happened.
Although there's a little bit of managing expectations with Georgia, obviously, because we don't know what the outcome is going to be at the moment.
Round about here, you've noticed the silver car. Yeah. Okay, where was that silver car?
In between that blue one.
We are doing everything we possibly can to get her the justice she deserves.
The police say that it might not go to trial, and you know, you're aware of that, Georgia. You're aware of that. Like, I'm, you know, just wanting to, you know, it's managing expectations. You've buried it for so long. You've continued on with your life, and then all of a sudden, to be given the opportunity to get what you really want, which is him, to then be told, no, it might not happen. It's really hard. The best outcome for me would, of course, be for there to be that forensic link to him, because that means longer in prison. Just to keep him in there, just to keep him away. Because the damage he's done to enough people, he does not deserve to be having a normal life.
A man accused of a kidnap in Harpenden 19 years ago is standing trial at St Albans Crown Court today. Alec Housden, who's now aged 59, denies carrying out the offence in March 2004.
In 2003, he reports a theft from a motor vehicle when it's parked at his home address, which was a silver car. But we've now actually managed to track down who he was working for at the time, who have confirmed that it was a company car that he had access to, and it did cover our offence date, which is obviously great. If we want to use evidence of people's previous convictions because they're similar to the case that they're on trial for, we have to make a bad character application, and it's down to the judge to decide whether to allow that material to go before the jury. If the bad character argument goes in our favour, then obviously it strengthens our case hugely. So it may be that at that stage, he feels that because our case is that much stronger, he may want to plead guilty. All to play for today, yeah. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay.
So as part of our investigation, we have now obtained Majid's police national record, and he'd been arrested in 1988 for a rape of another female. This young lady got into a vehicle with him, believing that he was going to give her a lift home, but he drove her to an isolated spot and raped her. But in 1988, he was acquitted.
1506. Okay, then you've just had a small consultation with your solicitor. Have you had enough time to speak to him?
I have.
Is there anything you want to say to us now you've had an extra consultation?
Well, I have had consensual sex after marriage, but I cannot remember because it's been so long. It's been 25 years. But I would never, ever rape anybody.
How many times have you had consensual sex after?
Maybe twice.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Where did you have sex with them?
Maybe in the car. I can't. To tell you the truth, I don't know. Ago, I mean, it's a long time ago. I mean, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast last week. Yeah.
Having sex outside of marriage is a little bit different to comparing it to having a bowl of Frosties, isn't it?
I understand, but I just cannot remember.
You've been arrested for a rape before, haven't you?
No comment.
Do you remember that?
No comment.
And the allegation then was similar, that you approached a female at a bus stop under the pretext of giving her a lift home. Did you pretend to be a taxi driver on that occasion?
No comment.
Was she one of the two girls that you mentioned about having
no comment.
Consensual sex with?
No comment.
Is it a coincidence that two women have alleged that you've raped them?
No comment.
Or is it that you rape women?
No comment.
Right, I'm going to conclude the interview. Okay, it's 15:50 and the interview is concluded, okay?
Very quickly after his arrest, we were able to put the file together and submit it to CPS, and within a relatively short period of time they came back with an answer to say, yeah, we're going to charge.
A man from Luton who posed as a taxi driver to kidnap and rape a woman 28 years ago has been jailed for 13 years. 54-year-old Zahid Majid was caught after his DNA was matched to the...
Successes, standing in front of a victim and saying, we've done it, we've got through this, and not only have we always believed you, but now 12 jurors have believed you. It was that DNA evidence that changed the course of the interview and the direction of the investigation that showed Majid as responsible for the rape. It might have taken 27 years, but justice was served in the end.
I was absolutely convinced that he probably wouldn't get found guilty of it because it was so long ago. And then the judge, she said, right, 13 years. It was very, very difficult for me to hold the tears back, the emotion. The look he gave me when he was sentenced was absolute disgust. And that's what reminded me that he could still be quite dangerous to me. He's in jail now, I'm not. I'm walking free. My life is opening up. He is completely restricted, and he's going to be restricted for the rest of his life.
I'm disappointed. My personal view is that we haven't got the wrong person for that offence. But when the judge ruled that we couldn't use the bad character evidence, our case wouldn't have made any sense as to how we identified or got to Mr. Housden. That's sometimes just the way the law works. I'm obviously disappointed for the third victim. I think the biggest thing is to remember is that actually for two of those victims that were horrendously sexually assaulted and grabbed off the street by a stranger, we have now got some justice, 20 years on. So hopefully that will save them sort of looking over their shoulder and thinking, that man could grab me again at any time because he's going to be safely in prison. It's just a shame we couldn't get all three.
It's hard. But then also, the knowing that he is gonna be behind bars. It's more than just a silver lining, because what it's gonna mean to the other two girls, he's not gonna be able to do this again. And it has been recognised, the horrible things that he has done. And I think it's you can compartmentalise that. And I think it will take time for me to bring it together, but I've been able to get on since I was 12. So I think I'll be able to do it again.
When the incident first occurred, my agoraphobia was absolutely chronic. I mean, not even being able to get out of your own front door. It was complete paranoia as well.
maybe 20, 30 years ago. If we're only finding a couple of sperm heads, then your expectation of obtaining a profile from such small amounts of biological material, it would have been, on the whole, quite low. Thankfully, with modern-day extraction, the recovery of biological materials is far greater. And in this case, a full DNA profile was obtained, which was loaded onto the National DNA Database. And a single match was obtained against Zahid Majid.
His name was on the DNA database because he was arrested for another offence. I do wonder at what point somebody who knows of committed crimes thinks, I wonder if that knock will ever come on my door. Maybe he's been waiting for it.
We've been asked to come out to, well, basically, I'll let this officer explain what we're here for.
Right, okay.
And then we'll get it sorted out as quickly as we can.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay, right, so, Cody, at the moment, I'm going to be arresting you, okay, on suspicion of rape. So you have to say it again. If you let me explain, I'll explain it to you.
Read that.
So, yeah, this occurred on Sunday the 14th of November in 1993 in a garage on Hitchin Road, Luton.
There certainly didn't seem any anger. I'm sure if I was being arrested for something I hadn't done, I'd like to think I'd be showing a little bit more emotion.
What I'll do, I'm going to phone my missus. You can do, but you don't discuss what you've been arrested for. Yeah, sure.
Displaying a higher level of protest of innocence, where there was none of that, which I found quite remarkable, really. Rape is one of the most difficult charges to bring because even with the presence of forensic evidence, we still have to navigate defences such as consent. It's not just looking at the actual incident itself, it's about gathering as much information that surrounds the offence to prove or to disprove what is being said by either the suspect or the victim. What they hold brilliantly is still the original application that he filled in when he applied to become a taxi driver. And the knowledge check actually says that he was never a taxi driver prior to this application to become a taxi driver in 2000. At the time of the offence, it transpired that he actually worked for Vauxhall Motors, I think almost on a production line. Now we know that he wasn't a taxi driver. For me, that says you knew exactly what you were doing. You acted like a predator, where you could find and isolate a victim, lure them into your car, and then take them away and rape them. So he formed the intent to commit that rape before he sat there. He didn't just sit there to give somebody a lift home. That wasn't his intent.
So the reason you've been arrested today is because you've been arrested on suspicion of a rape that happened in 1993 on a female called Karen. Okay?
Okay.
Let's just try and go back all the way to 1993. Who would you have worked for then?
Weekend cars.
What, back in 1993? So what about your taxi licence then? Would you have had that back then?
Oh yeah, I mean, you couldn't drive a taxi without a licence.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your relationship with your wife like back then?
Very good. Yeah.
Have you ever been unfaithful to your wife?
No.
You haven't?
Never.
The victim of this rape. What she's saying is the driver has got a bit nasty, jumps over the car and forces himself on top of her and holds her up against the chair with force.
Right.
And she says the next thing she knows, she feels something hard against her legs and realises it's his erect penis.
Right.
She says she was struggling. She was trying to stop you putting the penis inside her. But you use your right hand to push your penis into her vagina, and she describes you fondling her breasts.
Right, so I've got to be an octopus then. So you're telling me that I'm holding both her hands? Well, that's what you're telling me, right? Yeah.
At one point.
Oh, so at one point, so I'm holding both her arms.
Yeah.
And then you're saying that on the other hand.
On a separate occasion during that incident.
Right. Okay.
This is her account.
That's her account. Okay.
And he ejaculates inside her.
Right.
And we believe that person is you.
It's not me.
She's done an evil fit of the person that she thinks has committed the offence, and this is the original document.
Okay.
So I just want to show you that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Doesn't look anything like it.
In 1993.
Well, it still would never. I would never look like that. Well, my hair will be totally long.
Yeah.
Or totally short. It would never be like that.
Well, it has to get to a certain length to get long, doesn't it?
No, you don't understand. My hair was either long or short.
But how did it get long from being short?
What do you mean? How do you get?
So if your hair's short now, and if you decided
not to cut it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's going to grow.
Exactly.
And one of those growing stages would be this length. Yes.
Yeah. Maybe.
Okay. So you're denying rape.
100%.
You're denying picking up anyone in a taxi that hasn't been booked.
That's correct.
And you're denying having sex with anyone in 1990.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. We've obviously got a database.
Yeah.
And when people are arrested, their DNA is put on the database, and who've been arrested before.
Right.
Yep, so we've got your DNA. And so the DNA that we've picked up on her clothing is hit against your DNA on the database. Okay?
Okay.
Can you explain that? You can.
I can.
Can you explain how any of your DNA could be found on her knickers?
No.
Is there any explanation as to why your sperm would have been found in her high vaginal spots?
No.
And your semen has been found
Not my
up here?
semen.
It is your semen, sir.
It's not. It is not my semen.
It is.
I'm telling you, it's not.
We've got-
100% is not my semen.
Well, unfortunately, we can't really argue with DNA, can we? Because our DNA is all very unique to ourselves.
Right. I don't know how DNA works.
This DNA is your DNA, and it's been found inside her vagina. And there's only one explanation, and it's you've had sex with her.
It's not. Look at me. 100%.
Can you give us a reasonable explanation as to why that's not inside her vagina then?
All right. I may have had consensual sex out of marriage. May. But I can't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to try and remember?
We have a chat.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, no problem.
If there's deniability of knowing the victim, then of course having the DNA match shows that that is inconsistent with the account that is being provided. Majid initially said he didn't know Karen. He said he'd never had sexual intercourse out of marriage, but it was the DNA evidence that was put to him in an interview that actually made him accept that this wasn't going away.